SSA confirms $6,710 Social Security boost, SSI, SSDI, VA checks approved, and already on the way. Breaking news tonight is sending shockwaves across America. And for once, it's the kind of news that brings relief instead of fear. The Social Security Administration has just confirmed a massive $6,710 increase, approved, passed, and already being sent out. This isn't rumor, this isn't speculation, this is real money about to hit SSI, SSDI, VA, and retirement checks. If you rely on Social Security to get by, what you're about to hear could change your entire outlook for the months ahead. Tonight, across the United States, millions of Americans are reacting to breaking news that feels almost too good to be true. For years, seniors, people with disabilities, veterans, and families relying on Social Security have been asking if anyone in Washington is really listening to their struggles. Every month, checks arrive, but too often those checks are stretched thin, barely covering rent, leaving little left for groceries, and forcing impossible decisions about whether to pay for medication, utilities, or gas. Now, finally, an announcement has been made that could change all of that in a dramatic way. The Social Security Administration has officially approved an increase of $6,710, and reports confirm that it's not just planned, not just proposed, but already passed and in the process of being sent out. This isn't speculation. This isn't rumor. This is real, and it's happening right now. For millions of households, this is more than just a headline. It's about whether you can keep your lights on, whether you can afford fresh produce instead of living on canned goods, whether you can refill that prescription without skipping another bill. It's about whether seniors who worked their entire lives finally get a measure of security in retirement, whether disabled Americans living on SSDI or SSI benefits can finally breathe without constant financial anxiety, and whether veterans who sacrificed for their country can live with the dignity they deserve. That's why this announcement has already sparked a wave of relief and excitement, because people know just how much difference this increase will make in their everyday lives. The timing of this decision is not accidental. September has always been a crucial month for government budgets, with the fiscal year closing at the end of the month. Lawmakers and agencies finalize their plans. Pressure mounts to act, and often last-minute changes or adjustments can be pushed through. For weeks, there had been whispers about something big coming, but very few expected it to be this significant. A $6,710 increase is far larger than the annual cost of living adjustment that usually gets announced in October. Instead of a modest bump of 2 or 3%, this increase represents hundreds of extra dollars every single month. It is not a minor adjustment. It is a full-scale change that could completely reshape how households on Social Security survive day to day. Let's put the numbers into perspective. On average, a $6,710 annual increase works out to around $500 to $560 more every single month. For someone on $1,500 a month, that brings them closer to $2,000. For a disabled worker receiving SSDI at $1,700, it could mean $2,200 or more. For a senior widow receiving $1,300, it means finally pushing closer to $1,800 a month. And for those on supplemental security income, who often receive the smallest checks of all, sometimes under $1,000 per month, this kind of increase could be truly life-changing. Suddenly, rent is more manageable, groceries are affordable, and the crushing stress of choosing between necessities is slightly eased. But how did we get here? For years, inflation has eroded the value of Social Security benefits. Even though the SSA provides annual cost of living adjustments tied to inflation data, the formula often fails to capture the true costs that seniors and disabled people face. Healthcare expenses, housing costs, and food prices have all been rising much faster than the general inflation index. Advocates have long argued that this leaves beneficiaries behind, with checks that look larger on paper but do not stretch any further at the grocery store or the pharmacy. Over the last 3 years, this gap has become undeniable. Seniors have spoken out, advocacy groups have rallied, and even lawmakers who once resisted big changes have been forced to admit that the system is failing too many people. The decision to approve a $6,710 increase is both political and practical. On one hand, it comes at a time when no elected official wants to be accused of abandoning seniors or disabled Americans, especially heading into an election season. On the other hand, the pressure from everyday Americans has become too loud to ignore. People are exhausted, worn down by bills, struggling to live on fixed incomes while costs rise around them. In many cases, these benefits are the only income a household has. Without meaningful increases, millions risk poverty, homelessness, or worsening health outcomes. That's not just a crisis for families, it's a crisis for the entire country. Critics, of course, are warning about sustainability. They point out that the Social Security trust funds are already projected to face shortfalls within the next decade unless new funding sources are secured. They worry that such a large increase could accelerate those problems. Some ask whether this will be a permanent adjustment or a one-time boost. Will future COLAs build on this new baseline, or will the government attempt to pull back later? These questions are real, and they will shape debates in the months ahead. But for ordinary Americans, the immediate focus is not on actuarial tables or decades-long forecasts. The focus is on October's payment, November's grocery bill, December's heating bill. People are thinking about survival, not long-term projections. And that is why this news is being welcomed with open arms despite the questions it raises. Let's look at what this actually means for real people. Take Margaret, a retired nurse in Ohio living on $1,400 a month. After paying $900 for rent, she has just $500 to cover everything else: utilities, food, medication. Every month is a struggle. With a $500 monthly increase, she could finally afford her prescriptions without cutting back on meals. Then there's Robert, a disabled veteran in Texas receiving both VA benefits and SSDI. His combined income has never been enough to cover his family's needs, and he's been relying on food pantries. An extra $560 a month means stability, the ability to keep his home warm this winter, and the pride of being able to provide for his kids without outside help. Or consider Anna, a single mother on SSY in California. Her $900 check has never been close to enough. With the increase, she can finally cover rent without skipping meals for her children. These are not luxuries. These are the basics of life. And for too long, they've been out of reach. Now, the big question on everyone's mind is timing. When will this increase actually show up? According to reports, the SSA has already begun processing the changes. That means checks arriving in October could reflect the new amounts, although some recipients may see the adjustment phased in over the next couple of months depending on their payment schedule. SSI payments, which always arrive on the first of the month, could be the first to reflect the increase. Retirement and SSDI payments tied to birth dates will follow their regular schedule but with larger numbers on the check. The message from the SSA is clear: this is not a distant promise. It is happening now. The reactions pouring in from across the country highlight just how significant this is. Seniors are calling it a blessing. Disability advocates are calling it a victory after years of lobbying. Families are sharing relief mixed with cautious optimism, wondering if it will truly keep up with rising costs. And critics, while warning of future challenges, cannot deny that millions of people desperately needed this lifeline. The bottom line is that the program is fulfilling its original purpose: to provide security, dignity, and support when Americans need it most. As we move into October, the landscape looks different than it did just weeks ago. Instead of bracing for another meager adjustment, beneficiaries are preparing for a meaningful increase that will actually make a difference. Instead of feeling forgotten, people feel seen. Instead of fearing another year of falling behind, there is hope. Hope that the system can still work, hope that voices were finally heard, and hope that for once the increase is large enough to matter. This moment will not end the debates about Social Security. Questions about funding, sustainability, and future reforms remain. But for now, millions of Americans can look at their bank accounts and feel a sense of relief they haven't felt in years. $6,710, it's more than numbers. It's groceries, it's heat, it's medicine, it's dignity, it's stability. And as these payments begin to roll out, households across the nation will experience firsthand what it means when a government program keeps its promise. So as September comes to a close and October begins, one thing is clear: this is not just good news, it is historic news. The SSA has approved an increase that will touch millions of lives, that will ripple across families, and that will redefine what it means to rely on Social Security in 2025. Whether you are a retiree, a disabled worker, a low income family on SSI, or a veteran who has served this country, this increase is for you. And for once, the system has delivered not just words, but action, and not just a small adjustment, but a truly life changing boost. And that's where we'll leave it for today. Real relief is finally on the way with $6,710 confirmed, approved, and already moving through the system. For SSI, SSDI, VA, and retirement beneficiaries, this isn't just an announcement, it's a lifeline, a boost that could bring breathing room when it's needed most. But as always, the story doesn't end here. Will this increase be enough to keep up with rising costs, or will more changes be pushed through in the months ahead? I'd love to hear your thoughts, so drop your comments below and let's talk about it. If this update helped you, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to ring the notification bell so you never miss a major development. Thank you for watching. Take care of yourself and your loved ones, and I'll see you back here soon with the latest updates you can count on.